Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and hello to everyone who is listening to us from different parts of globe. We live in an agile world. Everyone talks about business agility, talks about agility in any form that they understand it in their own perspective. Experts say we live in an age of VUCA, which is very crazy. We have seen the kind of overwhelmingness, the kind of disturbance, the kind of disruption that has happened during the last 2 years because of pandemic, and also prior to pandemic, the business was growing so fast, the market was changing so fast, business transformations were taking place across the globe with small incumbents coming in and making life difficult for big players. Now, what exactly is this VUCA? What do experts say about this? So this is comprised of 4 words: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatility, why? Because the nature and dynamics of change. So change is the only thing that's permanent now and for future. So we have to have change in the organizational culture. There is change every hour, and that change has to be sustained. The nature and speed of change, it forces, it changes, and there are change catalysts available. There could be many drivers for change. We live in an age of unpredictability. We don't have any predictability. We don't know how things will shape in tomorrow. With the onset of technologies like IoT, AI, ML, and also quantum computing coming in the near future. And then complexity. Things have become complex with businesses going, old businesses going defunct, no longer there, incumbents taking their place, and the culture, the mindset, everything has changed. And again, there's a haziness about the reality, exactly what's going to happen. And there's no clear-cut indication for a quarter or more than a quarter. That's why organizations today do not make long-term plans. Strategies are very short. You have a 1-year strategy, and that too is again agile, because it has to have that sense of pivoting back and forth in terms of what the market demands, what the organization should do to be competitive, to beat competition. And now, agile is usually described as the method of delivering value incrementally to customers. This is, we all know, this is from a software perspective, and this has come from Scrum's sprint. But there's a subtle problem with this perspective, because when it comes to convincing management how to interact with agile teams, we have prescriptions, we have methodologies, we have Scrum, we have SAFe, and they come and they talk about their workflows, their life cycles, and that gets organizations stifled, and organizations more or less get choked. Now, many people expected the adoption of agile would correct this choking, because they believed that executives would understand that the amount of work that could be accomplished by a team should derive value, but that did not happen. So then we have Scrum, which has been there for quite some time. It is only by one life cycle. It really is very stringent. Agile teams based on Scrum plan around 2 weeks increments, or if you have SAFe, then we talk about 3 months of work for an enterprise agile software to deploy. And the answer to all of this method prison, wherein organizations were tied to a method, tied to a framework, was provided by Disciplined Agile. And Disciplined Agile came up with a toolkit. It's not a prescription, it's not a framework, it's a toolkit which can leverage any kind any sort of prescription, any sort of framework that is running at your place. Having said that, this was a brief introduction about Disciplined Agile, and then we will map it to our topic today, MBI. My name is Mubin Khan. I live in Dubai. I'm an DASSM certified instructor, and I have my certifications on SAFe, Scrum, and I'm also PMI ACP. So I can help, and I help organizations, I help individuals to understand Agile from a broader perspective, to understand different nuts and bolts of Agile, and then enhance their capabilities in terms of training them on Disciplined Agile Toolkit and getting them certified. Now, we talk about Disciplined Agile as a part of PMI family, which PMI acquired in 2019. Now, Disciplined Agile provides guidance to help organizations choose their way of working, which we call WOW. In fact, the manual, the Bible of Disciplined Agile is called WOW. It's called Way of Working. And it only believes in context-sensitive manner, which means the team, the performing team, the client has to have enough awareness of context, enough awareness of the environment around it. Only then the team can be context aware, and it has to be very context sensitive. We need to understand what is going on, and that context awareness provides solid foundation for business agility. Now, business DA is an agile toolkit. It complements any kind of agile framework. For example, we know Scrum and SAFe, but there are many other frameworks also it can leverage upon. Now, Disciplined Agile was rather created. It was created and invented by these gentlemen while they were in IBM, and Scott Ambler is the pioneer. He's now the chief scientist of Disciplined Agile in PMI, and you have Ian Shalloway, who gave us the concept of MBI that we are talking about today, and then we have Mark Kleins. He's also one of the co-founders of Disciplined Agile. Now, Disciplined Agile as a toolkit can leverage everything which is Agile. It can leverage any kind of prescription, SAFe, XP. You can have, we have Lean because it's built on Lean. You have Agile modeling, open up. All of these can be leveraged by Disciplined Agile as a toolkit. And this is where you choose your WOW, you choose your way of working. Now, Disciplined Agile, whom is it for? It's not, let me debunk this myth that Disciplined Agile is only for software. Disciplined Agile provides value, provides guidance across the organization. So you can see it's for project managers, it's for product managers, operations, IT, and any function, including middle and top level managers. So today's agenda is, okay. We'll talk about Agile mindset, then what is capability, what are the different terminologies that we need to understand, because first and foremost, we need to understand, we need to know the terms, the definitions, the fundamentals, then you build upon them. We'll talk about facets of MBI, what is the purpose of minimum business increment. We'll also see a minimum business increment template, how it should be. Then we'll compare minimum business increment with minimum value product. And then we'll have some frequently asked questions, then closing thoughts, then questions and answers. It will be an interactive session. You can pose questions. You can also write your questions in the chat session, and then we can answer them at the end of the session. Now, as we know, in typical traditional project management, the holy grail, the holy triangle is all built upon scope, time, and cost. While as in Agile, it's a flip. Time and budget being worked upon, you always focus on features, in terms of what value is delivered, what value is created in what particular time period. Now, in the year 20s, it was thought that Agile is only for software. Now everyone knows Agile is spreading to everything. it's business agility, organization scale. We can handle complexity using agile, and agile can be fail safe, and agile endures for long. And goals of agile transitions: you improve delivery, you increase quality, it creates a faster time to market as compared to the waterfall approach. Okay, now agility is all about fit for purpose, like what exactly you are supposed to do in terms of what translates from portfolio, from strategy to your programs, to then to your products, or even to operations, benefits derived, benefits realized in operations and over a period of time. Now this Stacy's matrix shows us clearly in terms of uncertainty and in terms of disagreement, where is the sweet spot for agile? Exactly where is agile required? Where do we require waterfall? When it's very certain, when there's no disagreement, agreements are very close, you have clear scope of work there, of course you use waterfall. But you see the agile spot, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's high unpredictability, no agreement with the teams. That's the sweet spot for agile. Now this is, as I said, business agility is across the organizations, and disciplined agile is not for software, it's across the organizations. We talk about 91% IT, 77% business unit. In fact, back office, sales, marketing, and others believe that agility, 50% of more than 50% respondents believe that yes, agility is the way to move forward. And this is a very recent survey before COVID 2019 survey by KPMG. And here is a paradigm shift slide provided by McKinsey, which say now today organizations are like organisms, they evolve, they transform. We see organizations talking about transformation, and that transformation is nothing but change. A real transformation is when a caterpillar is transformed into a butterfly. But if you are just doing the change, you're digitizing your environment, you're making a paperless environment, you are only making that caterpillar faster. It's not transformation. You are not transforming. You are making yourself more nimble, and that's a faster caterpillar. And organizations believe that they have transformed, but that really is not the case. Business agility comes with a lot of perseverance, comes with a lot of due diligence, and you need to understand the enterprise context. You should be context sensitive. You need to understand how your teams are self-organized, what kind of leadership is required, and what are the different touch points across the value streams, different value streams, and that all is provided by Disciplined Agile. Now, we said that agile mindset is nothing but build small. We believe in breaking the large chunks into smaller, manageable chunks, and the release has to happen within those chunks, within those increments, within a time box, defined time box. Then why do we do small releases? Because we want to learn and pivot. If something is not as per the vision of that project or that product or that piece of work, you go back and fix it. And then you release quite often and release value, not less. It has whatever increment is released, we will call that minimum business increment. Whatever is released, it has to have value, which means the client should perceive it as valuable, as laden with features. And then that's what in financial terms we say that increment which could be billable. Now, who is describing what to build? That's very important, right? In other agile methodologies, frameworks, it's really very difficult, ambiguous. Now, who is describing what to build? Is it IT? You just talk about Scrum. IT probably by the time that increment is released, business dynamics might have changed because there's no overall view, there's no holistic view. And who is releasing and supporting? What about release team, supporting team? And what are we looking to build? Do we know exactly what are we building? Do we know what is the value it will derive for the client? Do we know what is the value? Now, how are the persons or group that are deciding to build these, describe this to the people who are building it? Now, you need to have that kind of alignment with the team who has decided what to build and with the team who is building it. And that all comes through through the values that Disciplined Agile has put forward, through the framework, through the principles that Disciplined Agile has put forward, right? We talk about, as one of the values, we say, delight customers. How do you delight customers if you don't have any visibility across the value chain? Like, we have to create a wow experience, awesome experience, and everything has to be awesome. Every touch point has to be awesome, which means everyone inside the value chain should know exactly, people who are building it and people who are deciding what to build and people who are building it should know exactly what lies, what are the challenges, and that's only available if you see Disciplined Agile, because you have 7 different life cycles to choose from. While as you are stifled in SAFe and Scrum, you're stifled with one life cycle, and that becomes a problem. Now, there are several reasons why there is this confusion, because there are every prescription, every framework talk about agility, right? And they look at it as a framework, as a solution. When it comes to organization, consultants come to organization, they are briefed about what to do, and it's just a cookie cutter solution. That's where the confusion adds, right? They believe that every engagement is the same, because what they could do, understand a different business proposition and tweak their life cycle, because they don't have leverage, they can't leverage. That's where Disciplined Agile comes into picture. There are different options. You can choose from lots of strategies. You can choose your own way of working, and that makes you more flexible and adaptable. Now, before we go ahead, it's very important, as I said, to go through some terms wherein we can understand what is minimum business increment and how it is linked with other terms which are commonly, confused and misused. So the first one is minimum viable product. Now, this term was coined by Frank Robinson in 2001, and then it was later popularized by Eric Rice in his book, Learn Startup. So minimum viable product is an investment in learning. It's an experiment. You should just be careful about this. It's an investment in learning. It's an experiment where your goal is to explore what the potential customer wants. So you're exploring, you're learning. So MVPs are experiments to explore a hypothesis about what your customer really wants. They are not to the real running version of your end product, because they are not at the level of quality or scale that you would produce for the end product. Because MVP is learning, it's an experiment. It's like we say, it's a pilot, right? To see the efficacy of what we are doing. Then comes minimum business increment. It's the smallest piece of value. So we talk about value here. It's the smallest piece of value that can be realized by a customer, could be an internal customer, external customer, and that value has to be consistent with the strategy of your organization. We talked about context awareness. This value has to be consistent with the strategy of the organization. And MBI, it adds value for customers and leads to valuable feedback to the product team, that the right functionality is always being built and is being built in the right way. And MBI is a solution that contains all the pieces that are required for value realization by the customer. So it's a bundle of features. It contains everything, all the features that are required to create value realization for customers. And we also talk about this could also be benefits realization, because when you realize value, you realize benefits. And MBI, when it's done right, MBI is the most pivotal thing in your value stream, in your life cycle. And this term was coined by Al Shalloway. Then we have the next term is minimum marketable feature, which is commonly known as MMF. It is the smallest piece of functionality that can be delivered that has value to its customers, thereby value to your organization. And MMF is a part of MMR. MMR is minimum marketable release. So we will understand more what is MMF when we see the last definition, which is MMR. So successful products are deployed incrementally in Agile into the marketplace over each time. Each major deployment refers to, major or minor deployment, it's referred to as a release. And MMR, which is a minimum marketable release, is the release of a product. It's a release of a product that has the smallest possible feature set that addresses the current needs, that addresses the existing needs of your customers. Like minimum marketable release are used to reduce time to market. So we say, okay, how much this product now has to be released, in the market, in operations. So it reduces the time to market between releases by reducing the coherent feature set of each release to the smallest increment that offers new value to the customers. And MMR is one of minimum business increments, very important features. Now, what do we do? How do we do? Where does this come from? How are these mapped, these four important definitions? How are these maps? You can see minimum viable product. It informs, it provides information to MBI and minimum release feature, releasable feature, which is a part of MBI. It also provides inputs to MBI. And then MBI is part of a minimum marketable release. So you can see the mapping of these four important terms. Minimum viable product, which is what is a minimum viable in terms of a product that could be released. And then that provides input to the minimum business increment. And that finally, that becomes a minimum marketable release, which is the final release in the environment. Now, there is, how do we understand? So if we need to understand this by an example. So Al Shalaway, who propounded this concept of minimum business increment, he carried out an experiment. It was an experiment to make, because he wrote a paper, he wanted the audience to understand exactly what is MBI and how it does link with MVP. Now, he created a power bar. We have a power bar, power extension at home. On a table, he started with this very simple approach. He talked to a mall manager. First, he told him, okay, I need, there was a table against the wall. He said, I want this for 1 week. I need to run an experiment. So he put a power bar in the nearby outlet and put it on the table. So it was just a simple power extension. On the wall, it had the sign that if somebody wants to charge his phone, please, this is the phone station, this is the charging station. Now, throughout the week, he would stand there telling people that this is a service, please come and charge. They would see, and he discovered that nobody was willing to actually do that. At least they were not willing to, even willing to trust him, because then he took a short survey with those people who used to come to the mall, and they said they don't really trust this kind of service. Now he did experiment 2. He added several common power cords, which were available for different types of phones. On first day, several people indicated, yes, they would use the service, but unfortunately, they didn't have their charging cable with them. So at the end of the day 1, he bought several power cables from electronics store to the mall. And over the next few days, he had more people willing to charge their phones at the table. By the end of the week, he had gathered a good amount of data, which showed there was general interest in the idea. But the major problem was the inability of people to safely leave their device. They had to be there, near the device while it was charging. They won't trust it. So then he thought, okay, this is not the right place. So what he did, he went to a cafe, because people usually throng to cafe with their handheld devices, and that's the right place to charge. But the cafe already had power sockets available. So after a few days, he realized that this is not the right place for the product. Then finally, what he decided, he could see, okay, now I need to improve upon the product. He added a lockable, he created some cubbies on the holes, on the power socket holes, and he created a lockable mechanism and a wooden cabinet. It had 16 holes, 16 cubby holes. If we talk about, 3-pin plugs or 2-pin, depending upon the charging sockets. So each cubby hole had a specific type of charge cable. So if somebody wanted to use his phone, and he would use it, and each cubby had a door with a physical key lock, but then that was again overwhelming. People had to go back and then see they were not comfortable with lock and key mechanism. So then he identified that, okay, now there are some features he has to have in this kind of product. So first was lockable cubby holes. People will only leave their phones and other devices if it was safe. So each cubby hole needed to be locked in a way that the person who left the phone in the cubby, only he would get the access. So he thought about, okay, it has to have some kind of electric lock where people will type in a private key or fingerprint, and then they can access their phone. And then common power cords, he needed to have the commonly available power cords over the, non-used power cords. Then the location had to be accessible, and then it had to be at multiple places. It would help. It would be in multiple places, this kind of product. And then payment processing. He wanted to support, people wanted to have this service, yes, support credit card and probably pay by Bluetooth or, and again, he was investigating how this payment would work. So over the next 2 months, he built a minimum business increment. Now the minimum business increment was a large box which had 16 cubby holes for small devices such as phones. So with each box, he folded each box with steel, with some metal for security. And then for security and payment processing, he built a device that used a small touch screen. It was like a tablet as an input device, which would use a swipe card for both for capturing credit card or debit card payments. So over several weeks, he was able to build 5 of these. He placed 3 boxes in a mall where he had run initial experiments, and this was quite successful. Then he continued to evolve the product via a series of minimum, MVPs, and that is where he ran some experiments. Now he had the product, he had the minimum business increment, the large box with cubby holes. Now he wanted to enhance this. So that's where the concept of MVP comes. So he ran some experiments into a public library where he discovered that, yes, library patrons wanted to charge large devices such as tablets and laptops. So this MBI would need some enhancement. So he developed a new MBI. He called it library charging system. It was like a hypothetical experiment he did. So finally he came up with the learning, which says MVP is an investment in learning, like minimum viable product, as we said in the last slide, is an investment in learning, while as MBI is an investment in value. You only create value with minimum business increment, while as if you have to test, if you have to find out what really works, and that is the concept where MVP plays, MVP comes into action. Now, it's very important to understand, where does MBI come from? It's very important. Where does it come from? So where we as professionals or product managers, project managers, we see scope of work, we do WBS. So where does this MBI come? We have never seen, even in software projects. Now we go a step higher. There's a term called capability. Now capability is the ability of a system required to perform a greater objective or mission. It's a formal high-level description. It's a top requirement. is expressed as problem space. When you have a problem space, problem statement, and that creates capability, that creates understanding of what has to be done. And it always begins with value exploration. What is the value which will be created, and how is this definition, how is this concept of value being approved by the business owners? Now, in lean agile landscape, which Disciplined Agile is built upon, there are two kinds of owners. Like, you have either business capability, anyone from business, or their architectural capabilities, because they would understand exactly how this MBI should be created, and what feature set should it contain so that it can create value. Now, capabilities are decomposed into MBIs, and MBIs then are decomposed into features. Now, the key to decomposing an MBI into feature is understanding what a feature is and how it differs from an MBI. Like, a feature is a significant piece of functionality that is part of an MBI. There are many features cohesive within itself. Everything about it works together. They create one single value. All the features grouped together, they create one single value, and that value is delivered as MBI. So it is very important to understand that MBI is a combination of features, and that MBI is crystalled from capability. Capability is decomposed into MBIs, and then MBIs are decomposed into features. Now, what is an MBI? MBI is the smallest piece of value that can be realized by a customer. It could be your internal customer, external customer, and we said it has to be consistent with your strategy, right? We could also say it's a container of information. Which is information is features that has the pieces that are required. The pieces are the features which are required for value realization by customers. It identifies value-adding flow-oriented activities. In our next series, when we will talk about value streams, we will talk about flows, then you'll appreciate it more. What is flow-oriented activity? Now, it identifies adding flow-oriented activities from development, from value stream, from operational value stream, and also from support stream. So it identifies value, it adds value across the all value streams, across the chain of the increment, and it is always recognized in terms of combination of features. Now, what it does exactly, it adds. Why do we do MBI? Why do we have this concept of MBI? Why do we want to identify this concept of MBI? Why? Because it adds value to the business. It adds value for the customers of the business, the clients who we are engaged with, because we said every touch point has to be awesome. We have to delight our customers. We have to be context aware. So once we are context aware, we delight our customers, then we understand what is the value. Now, value, where is this value coming from? This value is derived from the engagement, but this is defined by the customer. Customer will tell you exactly what the customer wants. And that is looked at from a holistic perspective, then broken down into increments, and then it's released frequently, yes, with value and not less than the value. So it has to be a piece of work released which is value, which provides client with his value perception, understanding what value is defined, and there has to be a definition of done. When client will say, the product owner will say, yes, this piece of work is done. That's what is definition of done. It also provides valuable feedback and the right functionality, that the right functionality is built, right? Because we said we can always pivot, go back and understand what is right, what is not right. So we can always go back and fix it, because in Disciplined Agile Toolkit, you can choose from different strategies. You can always, you have the leverage to go back and fix if you need to have a corrective action. but there is very less chance of doing a corrective action, because while you're planning, where you're creating your increment landscape, you have so many strategies, so many, and there's a lot of guidance available, right? You have guidance available that what is good practice in this kind of landscape. And then you also have choices. You can either take the good practice, it's not recommended, it's suggested, or you can have your own way of working. Now it provides valuable feedback that the functionality is being built in the right way, which is, yes, the MBI has the value. It was done in the right way. It was tested. It was delivered the right way. It provides functionality that can be delivered and which can also be validated as being useful. How do we validate it to be useful? Because it matches the definition of done. Now it enhances the ability of the organization to deliver value in the future. Because if you have this culture of understanding, culture of deliberation with the team, which is always self-organizing, the team understands the value of MBI, how to create, how to decompose capability, and how to gather together sets of features to create an MBI. It enhances the ability to the organization. And we said it contains all the pieces that are required for value realization. Now also, very important, it understands the capacity of the people that will do the work. Because while you're doing MBI, you need to know that you know what has to be done, who decided what has to be done, and then who is doing it. So you understand the capacity of the work. So which means it completes your work in progress. It helps to manage your work in progress. You're in your Kanban board, you have work in progress. So if you do the MBI diligence right, it helps you to manage your WIP right. And it also provides clarity in terms of alignment, because we said it has to map with strategy. So now MBIs are created by first determining what your target audience is. So you need to understand your customer, need to understand your customer's pain points. That's what we said, the payment, the problem space is the capability. Now, the target audience may be external or internal. Then we decide on scenarios for the business objective in question. What is the business objective? Then we focus on minimum business increment for the scenarios, and then we choose different options that are given in Disciplined Agile Toolkit, and then we choose and create an MBI. Now, a series of MBI is often required to achieve a desired functional implementation. Like, say, for example, if we have an epic, it would require a series of MBIs, to achieve the desired function. Now, by building and delivering them incrementally, you get both value and feedback more quickly, and it gives you an opportunity to pivot, because you get a quick feedback, and you get this opportunity to pivot. So this business value should be based on what represents value for the business and also for the client. So MBIs are always focused on realization and value, and not merely deploying a feature. We are not deploying a feature. It's not a feature set. It's a combination of features. They must all add up and describe what is needed for a full value delivery inside the MBI. Now, what is the purpose of MBI? So we talked about MBIs. Now, what is the purpose? It provides an early de-scoping to high value. By doing this, the organization can focus on manifesting the most important value. You understand what is the most important value. Now, smaller pieces are very easy to manage, right? So we say there was a theorist called Eli Goldart. He created this theory of constraints. He said, often reducing batch size is all it takes to bring a system back into control. Like once you reduce the batch size, he was talking from a manufacturing capacity. When you reduce the batch size, then you bring a system back into control, because then you have to focus on small pieces. Like small pieces can be delivered more quickly, and by focusing on the high value pieces first, we prioritize what are the high value pieces first, then we de-scope early, And descoping early helps you avoid spending time on items of lesser value, which is the concept of lean. And then it also ensures completeness to realize value, which means MBI contains all the work that is required to realize value. The scope of MBI includes non-development aspect also of value realization. For example, it's not only the development of the feature. We talk about user documentation, whatever is required from that engagement. We talk about market support. We talk about operations and others. Now, MBIs create the visibility throughout the entire value stream and provide clarity for DevOps as well, because the handshake with DevOps becomes very critical. MBI provides clear visibility, provides clarity while handshaking with DevOps. Now, it enables the ability to sequence the list of work to be done. Now, this means that it also enables avoiding work until you have the capacity to complete it. That's what we said. It will help you manage your WIP, work in progress. So it helps you, enables you avoid starting work until you don't have, you need to have capacity. You manage having capacity before you start your work. And now it provides clarity of what to align around. All parts of the organization should be working towards defining, implementing, deploying, and allowing for realization of most value as defined by the business stakeholders. So this value is churned out in the form of an MBI, right? So which means it provides clear alignment with strategy, with the organization strategy. Now, MBI ensure that all levels, scope is always, we know that in traditional environments, scope is always constrained by a focus on faster realization to value. That is by and large true. Then when MBIs are initially defined, they represent the minimum checks of business value that can be realized. And MBIs are decomposed into features, into stories, and the scope of features and stories. And those, we have to be careful that those scope of features and stories have to be limited to that of the MBI. And this means building only what is required to be built, on is what is required to create value. So the method of decomposition, when we decompose capability into MBIs, it does not limit. It does not limit us to scope constraints. So it provides, it ensures that at all levels the value is recognized, identified, and value is created. Now, work in progress is very important. If we have the information radiator boards, or we have Kanbans, which provides digital visibility to the team and also to the management. So work in progress is always an indicator about how healthy the system is. So work in progress is often thought of as the amount of work actually being worked on. But if a feature is started, then that entire feature is work in process, right? So it's exactly as that of an epic, the same story. But MBIs, what does an MBI do? MBIs have an influence on the amount of WIP, because teams know they need to focus on finishing all the stories in a feature and all of the features in the MBI. So the team knows its capacity, because they know that how many stories are there in that feature, and that how many features are there in an MBI, plus the features and the stories are smaller, since they are just implementing the part of the feature, part of the MBI. So these stories, these features are smaller in terms of increment, but then they maximize value. So therefore, MBIs therefore minimize work in progress by being smaller to begin with, having smaller pieces to be decomposed from, which is the features and stories, and it provides a higher view of what exactly what exactly needs to be finished. Now, minimum business increment template, what exactly we should need from a requirements perspective. We should know who this is being created for, who is the audience, who is the customer, and what are the use cases that would describe the value. You need to have use cases created. Then it has to meet the organization's definition of done. Then we need to understand what's needed to develop, right? Development teams involved in creating it, who is the team, what are the architectural issues. We have other capacities also needed, shared service UX, and then what's needed for release. Do we need, what kind of documentation do we need? What kind of marketing is entailed? How is our support? How is our ops? What is the handshake with DevOps? So all of this is a template for minimum business increment, where you will understand what is required to be done. Now, how do we compare MBIs with MVPs? Now, there are different from different perspectives. We compare these two. Now, they have similarities because both MVP and MBI, they are mindsets. It's just a mindset, and they use vertical slices of functionality to validate the work, and they are both customer centered. So they are mindsets and they are customer centered. So these are two similarities. Now, we'll see different facets of their comparison. Like now, investment reason. So the minimum viable product is discover if a new product is viable. So we will do an experiment. It's a learning to see if a new product is viable. Now, MBI, from an investment reason perspective, we need to understand, we want to get a return on investment by enhancing an existing product, right? So we have a product, it has to have multiple features, it has to be enhanced. So we need to exactly understand how do we get return on investment, and then based on that, we create an increment which generates value, which is billable, right, with the customer. Now, the second perspective is customer market. Now, MVP is creating a new product for early adopters. Like we create a new product for early adopters, and we just test it, we learn it. While as MBI, it's extending to new market segment or solidifying offering to existing customer segment, because we talk about enhancing, and we talk about that customer market segment that's either new or that's the one which we already have. Now, marketing, from marketing perspective, MVP, they have focused interactions with prospective clients, because we talk about new clients, right? So marketing is next time. So we're talking about new customers. So with prospective clients, we do minimum viable product exercise, we do pilots, we understand exactly how can we do it. While as in minimum business increment, we market with existing marketing organizations through existing channels, because we are very clear what we are knowing. We know who are our marketing channels, and we know what exactly has to be done. But for MVP, we always focus on new landscapes, prospective clients, and time needed to create. You always have to make sure that you start with a small team focused on building MVP, because this is learning. So we don't see, it's not seen from a return on investment perspective. Yes, of course, it's learning, it's to test new waters. It likely to require, and MBI would likely, you're likely to require several teams coordinating together unless a product alignment already exists. Now, how to implement, this is a very important thing. You start with small features, both in MVP and in MBI. But in MBI, you decompose into features and stories that implement only the scope of MBI. Right? You have a defined scope. You're not testing new waters. You have something chalked out. Definition of done. So you do it from that perspective. You see what exactly are the features which are bundled together. What is my MBI? How it's to be deployed. Now, what is the impact to existing offerings? from MVP perspective, little direct impact on existing products. And this is very new, right? We may interact with existing customers, but that's not our goal. So it's always new prospective clients. MBI we're likely to interact with multiple systems, within the same customer landscape. Now, from a risk perspective, this is we always have to have a very keen eye on risks from an investment perspective, engagement perspective, reputation, many other stuff. So MVP may not have a viable market. So we want to discover this very early. So you cannot spend effort, time, if it should be small enough so that you can pivot it back. And if you don't have, if there's no viable market and you discover early that it cannot be done, so you move back. Whereas MBI enhancement may not be as valuable as anticipated, but you still have to do it. It may affect other offerings, but that means you need to do very, very strong diligence in MBI. Now, next feature, we'll talk about value stream flow. We'll see where does this MBI come from and how does it go into the value stream, and then we'll see how this is created, how this transcends the value streams in WIP, and then how we create and increment, and how do we release MBI. Now, having said that, that's the end of our session today. Thank you so much for being with us. Giving you a broader view of Disciplined Agile, we have level 1, level 2, level 3 certifications. You can see it on PMI's website, or if you go to ProThoughts website. Now we are having, we had a successful batch in the month of July, a first batch in UAE, and all the participants, we had 5 participants. 4 of them wrote the exam, they qualified, they got their badge, they're certified DSSMs, and 1 has yet to write the exam. Hopefully he also writes it. So our new batch starts 24 September. It's a 2-day engagement, which is Friday, Saturday, which is weekend in Middle East. And then if you want to know about ProThoughts, you can go to prothoughts.co.in and you can see the kind of recognitions we have. So I work in Middle East. I'm the principal consultant at ProThoughts. I am the single point of contact in Middle East, and you'll have my contact details also there. So we also have webinar calendars. If you go to site, you can see about the future webinars, and then we are on social media, and there's also LinkedIn group. You can join our LinkedIn group and understand, do your knowledge check where you are. If you have any questions, please, you can raise your hands. We have 7 minutes to go. If you have any questions, please. Any questions about today's topic? Any questions about Disciplined Agile as a toolkit? Any questions about what are the prerequisites? Who should go on Disciplined Agile journey? If you are new to the Agile world, and if you're planning to do your Scrum certification, we can talk about it. We can tell you exactly how Disciplined Agile adds value and adds you more value from a certification perspective, from an Agilist perspective. Also, if you are already an ACP, then you must have known different Agile frameworks and prescriptions available. Then it will be quite easy for you to get onto Disciplined Agile. And also if you're Scrum and if you've done any SAFe certification, or if you are waterfall project managers who work in waterfall environment now, and of course, because PMBOK 7, which has been recently released, has a considerable Agile component, and also the examination content outline of PMP has sizable Agile component. So this will also help you to understand Agile from examination perspective. So we can help you. We're the team who can help you in getting in touch with me, or you can just call me, and on this number, I have a UAE number, Now you can just send an email and we're always there to help you. We have 5 more minutes to go. Please, if you have any questions, so you're welcome. And all the invitees will have okay, Henry Ford. So far, I have PMP, CSM, CSP. Taking my PMI, ACP. Would Disciplined Agile be next? Yes, of course. Yes. If you have already paid for ACP exam and if you are prepared and 15 September is around the corner, yes, of course, that would add great value to your learning of Agile, and you can be a sought after practitioner because you already are a CSM and you're doing ACP. ACP provides you in-depth information about different prescriptions, but Disciplined Agile, you won't find Disciplined Agile there as a prescription because it's a toolkit, and you would definitely need to understand this toolkit from an upskill perspective. You need to upskill if you want to, make your current Agile and be an Agilist. You can also down the line be a trainer. So yes, after your ACP, you can very well come to us. You have my number here. You can just this number is WhatsApp. You can ping me and I can help you. And also in your ACP, if you need any help in terms of exam prep, you have a few days, and I can also help you there. No problem. That I can do. I'm here to help. Yeah, the claim code is 4. Okay, I'll share this in the chat. Just 1 second. It's 403201 SGFW 403. It's 21. SGFW. Ravindra Gangadhar, yes, my dear, these slides will be shared with you. I have shared with you the PDU code. So you can do it. So Adrian, you can come back to me anytime if you want. I can help you. I'm here to help, no problem. I have helped a number of PMI ACPs, to clear their exam, and now I'm doing the same for Disciplined Agile. It's a long and interesting journey, and really it's worth it, to get upskilled, because you will see Disciplined Agile in next couple of years. It has already made a lot of buzz, meaningful buzz. I won't say not noise, meaningful buzz. Yes, you'll see it, being one of the premier certifications in Agile. So Barani Kanan, it's there in the chat if you can see it. Code is not seen. Okay, I can just read it out. It's can't see. Okay. Okay, you'll get an email. All the participants will get an email with the claim code, and also with the link to the video recording. So you should have that. So I've already written the claim code here. I wonder why this is not being sent. So with this, we come an end to our session. So there's a poll. If you can just please answer the question number 1. It won't take you less than a couple of minutes. So, okay, it's only 7% have participated. I would appreciate if you do it, because this will help us to provide you more insights, because now we'll be starting a series on Disciplined Agile, and we'll have a series of webinars so that you you understand that you get on the journey, you appreciate Disciplined Agile as a function and Disciplined Agile as a capability. So only 59 participants have voted yet. Please, I want to see more of you. Only 62% has gone to 65. That's good. More than 50, over 71. Wow, good jump. Okay. Okay. Okay, 69, drop to 69. Couple of minutes more, it should go to 80%. I would request you to please, because this will help us to help you, get on the journey. And these are small bites of information that will be available to you offhand whenever you want to, also have some information handy to understand exactly what you need to upskill, to understand project management from a larger perspective, either agile or waterfall. So we can help you to do that also. So one last minute, it has reached 80%, one last minute. Okay, thank you for your polls. I am so delighted to have you with us, and hope you guys are doing well. Stay safe. Take care of your near and dear ones. Stay safe. Remain healthy, and also make sure that once you go back to workplace after this pandemic is over, you have a new skill set to demonstrate, and you can go to new avenues of work. You can go and traverse the new landscape, especially if you're in the waterfall arena now. You just pick up your boxing gloves and practice and become agile. And we are here to help you to become certified in Disciplined Agile. So thank you so much.